All right. We're live, Spittin' with Spitter. How you doing? First, we got to pay some dues. We'll get that out of the way. Our sponsor, Lehigh Valley Vapor. I don't know anything about vaping, but TJ goes there every week for years and gets all the cool vaping gear and stays inside the budget. So, 191 in Nazareth. Is that right, babe?
822 Nazareth Pike. Yeah.
This is my guest, TJ. And TJ's got a month of guests talking about mental health and addiction. So kicking it off, we're going to start with TJ's story. TJ, would you like to say hello?
Hi, guys. I'm TJ, Spittin' with Spitter. This is different. I'm a little nervous.
You should be. Because I'm going to be so nosy. I want to start at the very beginning because addiction is up to 50% genetic. So we are going to start from birth. Like knowing what you know about your birth family, how much addiction and mental health disorder do you think was in your bloodline?
I with what I know, I would say all of it. you know, my grandmother, I love her to death. I believe that she drank a lot. And to my mother, I know my mother was an addict. My sister also was an addict. And here we am. Here we am. This is how nervous I am. Here we are. I'm an addict. And like I said from the beginning, like I knew it, knowing what I know now, I displayed all the addict tendencies without using drugs at a very young age. Joe, what up,
How
man?
young can you remember back feeling like unwell, like something's missing? Like how far back into your childhood can you think that you remember that clearly?
Vividly remember at 7 years old, right? Asking my adopted mother what was wrong with me and why I wasn't like other kids. And like hindsight's 2020. So like to go back and revisit that conversation, the conversation started with this is a lot tougher than what I thought it was gonna be. Jeez. The conversation started with why doesn't my real mom want me? Why am I not like all the other kids? Why can't I just be happy? You know? And at the time, and that's not to tell my age, but that's 1987, and mental health and addiction were nowhere near as, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but because back then mental health and addiction were swept under the rug. Nobody, that was the, if somebody in the family was suffering from mental health or addiction, they didn't talk about it. Like all that shit was swept under the rug. So I don't really think at that time that my mom knew how to field those questions, or she wasn't educated enough on those topics to answer.
How do you think that kind of manifested as you're growing up before you ever knew what drugs were? What what other tendencies could you see maybe now looking back?
It it definitely started with food and toys at a very young age, like to where I would keep my toys real close to me. Like, no, I'm not sharing. Like, we could share if I have extras, but like my core toys I didn't want to let go of. And like, I was raised in an only child household, and there was always an abundance of food, but I would find myself taking like the snacks and the food that I like and hiding it in my bedroom, like just so nobody would take it from me when nobody was ever going to take it from me.
All right.
We have some comments coming in.
Yeah.
Everything wasn't studied as heavy back then. That's right. That's 100% facts. Dave Markle says, good evening. Hey, guys. Joe Unang says, we were told to walk it off, suck it up, get tough as young men. And that's 100% right. And B Jock City chiming in, my family. Hey, Ben.
So the reason I wanted to start right there is because I think it's a lot of people can look back at their childhood now at our age and say like all those signs were there. But like everybody's saying, back then it wasn't something anybody addressed.
No.
But I think it's a pretty common experience that I just want to know, what do you think if you had a completely different life, do you think addiction still would have came out? Do you think that was just something unavoidable?
You know, I don't want to say it was there was something I was going to face one way or another because I was predisposed to addiction and that obsessive compulsive trait. But I think with the perfect storm of by God's grace and mercy, I was adopted to a family that cared for me and provided for me. But when we talk about addiction, it's filling the void, whether it's spiritual, emotional, physical, mental. We're trying to, whatever that void is, we're trying to stuff it down so we don't have to face that. And so at a very young age, that void for me was my real family. So I think no matter what, it would have, like, if the situation were different as to where I was brought up by my mother and father that birthed me, and I lived with my sister. I don't know, most likely, because I know how I'm wired.
Hey, Chris.
Chrissy Stiper chiming in. Man, listen, Mrs. Spitter is
Focus.
focus. Yeah, focus. I told you I was nervous.
We're just warming up. So I want to know, okay, we grew up in Peaburg. How old would you say was the first time you really started experimenting, like just socially with your friends, drinking, smoking, uh, maybe not even your friends, some of your family, whatever. How old do you think that started?
We were young, getting sips of beer and drinks and stuff like that at family parties, and that was acceptable, you know. And then that turned into, well, the sips of drinks and the beers and stuff are in the fridge. I'm just gonna help myself, you know. So young, very young. Young men weren't allowed to show emotion back then. It was a sign of weakness because that's how we were raised. It's 100% accurate.
Do you think right away at that young age of experimenting that you already were like, this makes me feel better? Or was it just like, all fun and games at that point?
That was just fun and games. That was just fun and games. That was just, if we're all doing something and I wanted to fit in, I'm going to do it, you know.
As a teenager, I met you. And for the people that we were around, and the stuff that was going on, I didn't really think that you partied all that much. What were your teen years like?
I didn't. I really didn't. You know, from like eighth grade to like maybe sophomore, junior year, like I was just, it was all music and basketball. Like there was a point like my freshman and sophomore year that I took a lot of pride in being straight edge, to where like I wore like the black bracelet with the X's on it, had the X on my hand, you know. I didn't want any, like, because I seen what drugs were doing to like my older family members. I didn't want any part.
What was your mental health like though?
Crazy, that shit crazy. Like I had a very unhealthy relationship with things that I love: basketball, music, you know, like to where everything else got put on the back burner, whether it was school or stuff at home. Like if it wasn't basketball or music, I didn't want any part of it.
When did you get into harder drugs then? How did it start?
Like the opiates or just like the weed?
I mean, what when was it? Okay. I don't know if weed is a harder drug. I don't know if I should say that on
No,
an
no,
addiction
I
show,
don't.
but
I listen. And listen, as somebody that's in
unless it is
recovery,
for you.
as somebody that's in recovery, and I'm probably gonna get slandered for saying this, I don't think weed is the great opening for harder drugs, and I don't think, like, you know, that's not what was almost that killed me. You know what I mean? Like harder
So
drugs, harder drugs for me started, it was crazy. I was like 15, 16, and then I stayed away from it for a while. I had a toothache, and somebody that was very close to me gave me a painkiller. You know, and it was nothing crazy. It was like a Tylenol 3 or something, and that was wonderful, for the lack of better terms. Like that's a common misconception. Weed is not a gateway drug. I don't believe it is.
I mean, I think some people can abuse it, but I don't know
Oh,
if
for
that's
sure. I think some
yeah.
people can abuse scratch off tickets and and
Yeah.
hobies and anything that, you know what I mean, that they can dive into, they'll abuse it.
So painkillers started back again when you were in your later teens,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
you were just on a script all the time.
all the time.
Is that right? Yeah.
All the time. I messed up my back at like 17. I herniated 2 discs. And from then on, I didn't go without them for a very long time, which then turned
Alan,
into, go ahead.
sorry.
Listen,
Alan
yeah,
said he abused tasty cakes. Listen, Alan, we almost had a tasty cake problem because of you.
Alan was the tasty cake pusher.
So you go from having a script for your back to just continuing to get it. And when did it start to feel like it just consumed? Like, when did you
Probably
know it was a problem?
19 years old, 20 years old, when, you know, there's a moment that, like, you know, like whatever the painkiller or the opiate is that's building up in your system, and then you say, I don't need it anymore, and you try to go without it, and then you feel like complete hell. And back then I didn't know what it was, but it was my body going through withdrawal. You know what I mean? And so at 19, 20 years old, I needed it. Or so I thought.
Right. All right. So I'd say maybe like 24, 25 years old, just clearly remember it becoming completely unmanageable. Where, I mean, I'll let you tell it. I don't want to skip anything in between then. And it was just like a slow progression over those next couple of years.
Yeah, you know, it was the I'm gonna smoke weed every day. I I'm gonna sell drugs every day. This is what my life has become. And not because I like that's the wild shit. Like I never needed to do any of those things, whether it was selling drugs or like, you know, using drugs every day. I was just so consumed with the feeling, whether it was the attention from selling the drugs or the feeling from getting high, that just it snowballed into something way bigger. And then, you know, as a as teenagers and as younger adults, we go through trauma and we don't realize it until it's addressed. Like we were saying earlier, at those ages, so we're talking 96, 97 at that time. Like in 1997, I found my father dead. So like looking back at it now, I treated the next 10 years of my life like that wasn't a big deal, you know? And the best way that I can explain that is I would never want my son to be in that position. You know what I mean? Like, God forbid, I would never want that to, I would never want that to I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody in my family. You know what I mean? Let alone like my son, you know?
And that's how you realized that it traumatized you, by thinking about what it would do to him.
No, like, you know, at my mom thought it would be a great idea for me to start seeking counseling and therapy like 19, 20. And so like I seen a therapist and a psychiatrist, and they started diving deeper into like my mental problems and things like that. But I wasn't listen, if you're abusing drugs, you're not going to address any of your mental health. You know, so I didn't I didn't realize the damage that me finding my father dead caused until I understood the love that my children had for me. Got it real heavy on a Sunday afternoon, Jack. I tell you what.
Well, the reason that I want to dive into the details, honestly, is because I just feel like so many people have similar stories. And there might be people that are in recovery, that are early in recovery, that haven't faced this stuff yet, that haven't even thought about recovering yet, or maybe watching a loved one go through it. And I'm not trying to be dark about it, but
Right.
yeah, we got to
No,
get
like,
the real story.
yeah.
So, the time I'm thinking of, the time of your life was, you were using painkillers all the time, scripts,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a couple of traumatic things like back to back,
Yeah.
um, all around like, you know, 24, 25 years old, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just saw that go from, oh, my doctor gives me these pills and I don't really do drugs, so it's not a big deal, to just waking up like trying to get blasted every day.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, falling down in public, just spiraling bad. Um, do you remember anything from those years into the next couple years of how unmanageable it was? And can you tell me anything like about your mental health at that time?
So like think it was like when we're talking, right? Like again, these perfect fucking storms. At 20 years old, or not 20 years old, at 24 years old, I had found out I had a sister, right? And so my Aunt Barb had made arrangements for me to come out and meet my real mother and real sister. And so as a little kid, this is everything I ever wanted in life. You know what I mean? Like, wow, finally. So now I'm dealing with the brokenheartedness of my mother that raised me, dealing with me wanting to leave and go to Kansas to meet my real family. So I get out to Kansas, and if you put people on a pedestal, it's a long fall. I promise you that. I had the no matter how my mother was or how my sister was, those expectations would have never been met because of how high of a pedestal that I had them on. So when I went out to Kansas and I met this woman that was just like me, I was devastated. Like, I could have stayed home and you could have called me on the phone and explained all of this, and I would have never came out properly. And around that same time, one of my friends had passed away. And so mental health, I didn't want to live anymore at that point. And I spiraled out of control. And I was always and this is going to sound crazy, I was always too scared to really commit suicide, if that makes sense. Like, but I had this grandiose idea in my head that if I continue to take these painkillers and every day I take more, that one day I'm just not going to wake up, and then it's not going to be a suicide. It's just he just took too much medicine.
Did you have any thoughts of recovery at that time?
No, not at all. Because at the same time that I mentally and emotionally and spiritually wanted to die, I thought I was the life of the fucking party and wanted to be alive at the same time. Like, that's how fucking my mental health worked.
Mm-hmm.
1 second, not to cut you off.
Go ahead. I need some time to think anyway.
Shout outs to Angelique. Jacki is who I want to be when I grow up. TJ, I appreciate how raw you're getting. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. This isn't a top 25 rap list or who's in your playlist or who's better, Biggie or Pac. That's for fucking sure.
You can go back to that next week. And hey, Steph. I don't know if she's still here, but I see you.
Shout out to Billy Stacks. That's my brother too, man.
So that continued on for a few years. Do you remember anything about that you want to tell us about?
I was a monster. I was a monster to where I wasn't the kid that I was when I was little, and I wasn't the man that I am right now. I have no idea who that person was. And the characteristics that I displayed, and the unmanageability, and the degradation, and just everything in between those next, we'll say, 5 years.
So can you throw up Angelique's comment right there?
I have a loved one and have watched them spiral every day, fight to be strong.
So that I kind of want to go into that a little bit about during those years. Do you have any idea like what that effect was having on the people in your life? And what about when people were reaching out to you, talking to you about getting help and stuff like that? Like, what were those relationships like? Is there anything anybody could have said to you?
No, I remember my mom. Fucking hey, Jack, damn.
You knew what you were getting with me.
That's why I married you.
Answer the
Um,
question.
and my mom had moved her bed into the living room. I never knew why. And and she said to me, I just got to make sure you get home every night.
When did she tell you that?
Before she died. I had another lovely young lady at the time that if I were me, I would have hated me. That would just call and check up in the mornings to make sure I was alive. Thank you. He's got almost a full year clean, and I'm so thankful to get him back. Praise God.
When did you decide that you had enough of your own shit and you wanted to try to get clean? Do you remember like approximately where it was that you started to try, and how did it
Pro-
go for you?
probably like the whole last year before I got clean. Like I had great ideas. Like I had no idea what I was fighting against, right? First and foremost. But I had great ideas of I'm just gonna stop all this shit. I'm gonna turn my life around. I'm gonna wean myself off of drugs. I'm only gonna take a couple painkillers every day to make sure I'm okay. And that failed for an entire year. Like that was just a bad idea over and over and over again. Because it was never I'm gonna wean myself off of drugs. It was, oh, I'm okay now, I'm just gonna take more. you know.
Do you want to talk about the night that you did quit, the last time that you used?
Yeah. Who do you and that's part of what drugs will do. Like my memory is so like terrible in some aspects. Who are we going to see at Crocodile Rock? Was it
Fabulous.
Method Man? Fabulous. That's right.
We didn't go. We weren't going to. We actually did see him.
Yeah, right.
The whole show.
So we're going to see Fabulous, and I couldn't get my drug of choice at the time, so I thought it'd be a great idea. But what I take a bunch of sleeping pills, I believe, and we were drinking on top of that, and I don't remember how I got home, and I think I drove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I tell a little of my backstory on that evening myself? All right. So that year leading up to that, where you were on and off trying to get clean, we were living together.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Forgot about.
And you were hiding. You were, quitting, hiding it, getting caught. The whole cycle. And I think I want to say like June, you moved out because I found your pills and I said, throw them out or you have to leave. So you grabbed them and you left. And we were just starting to like talk, and it was my birthday, August. That's what we got the Fabulous tickets for. You're like, let me take you out for your birthday. So we went out, and I believe you told me you hadn't used in I don't know.
Months.
However long.
Whatever I was lying to you about at the time.
But yeah, so that's why you drove, because I was drinking and you were like, I just had, a little bit. I'm fine. And then throughout the whole night, like, just struggled to breathe and shit. Like, I almost called 911 a couple times, and then I left. And I was like, I can't be here and wake up with you dead in the bed. Like, can't do it anymore. So I didn't talk to you for, I don't know, weeks, month or so after that. Except for you calling to check in and say like, no, I'm really detoxing. I don't know what to do next, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you first started going to a 12-step meeting. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about how you detox? How some of the things that you went through, and then how you found this program.
Detox was hell because, again, like, you know, now addiction is on the forefront. There's programs, there's clinics, there's rehabs, there's facilities with medical professionals that will help you detox correctly. I thought it was a good idea to go cold turkey and lock myself in my house with no drugs, and that turned into throwing up, diarrhea, fevers, 10 sleepless nights, and that almost killed me as well. I remember at that point, and I didn't have a relationship with God at that point, but I remember praying like, listen, whoever's up there, if I could get just one good night's sleep, I promise I'm never going to do any of this shit again. You know, whatever you need from me, for me to have, like, and that's what us addicts do, right? We call them foxhole prayers. Like, you're driving, you got all kinds of drugs in the car, and you see the lights come on behind you. Listen, God, you get me out of this one last time. I'm never going to do it again. But that's what it was. I was praying, like, if I could just get one good night's sleep, I'm never going to do this again. That one good night's sleep turned into 2 days, turned into 3 days, turned into 4 days, and then so on and so forth. And then I forget, I think it was you that told me I needed to start going to meetings or do something. And the first meeting I went to there was candle lights, and I walked in and it was a bunch of kumbaya shit. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 this is not for me. And I ran I just, God gets you to where you're at to meet you where you are to help you. And that day and that time, on August 22nd or August 21st of 2009, I don't think I was necessarily ready. Now, on August 22nd of 2009, I had went to a different meeting, and this old man grabbed me. He wasn't old at the time. He was my age now at that time. So I thought
he thought he was old.
So I thought he was old, right? And he sat me down. He said, listen, you're going to read this book with me, and you're not going to fucking leave until the miracle happens. I had no idea what he was talking about. And here we are.
You want to throw up some of these comments here?
TJ was my one and only inspiration to get clean. And I will never forget that as long as I live. I appreciate that so much. My brother Joe, I love you and I'm proud of you. Keep fighting that good fight. I grew up in the rooms. My dad had 34 years under his belt. Major salute, Ange, and my prayers and condolences to you at this time. Funny if it was my dad, sounds like him.
You got one here too.
I've only knew you clean, but you're a great influence on me. Thanks, Scrap. I appreciate that.
So I do want to get into some of the people you've influenced, but first I want to talk about that first year in recovery, because that face right there, yeah. What was early recovery like? What was your mental health like as you're trying to face all these things, for the first time in years?
I had no idea what anxiety was. I had no idea what overwhelming feelings would do to me. I had no idea what depression was. I had no idea what it would be like to dissect, right, you're cutting an onion. I hate using this cliche, right, but you start peeling this layers in an onion, right? But to get to that core, there's a fucking million. There's gonna be a lot of tears from cutting that onion, and a lot of pain.
Colleen. Hi.
You're the best son a mom can ask for. We all make mistakes for every reason, but I love you no matter what. I'm proud to call you my son.
What did that support group give you during that first year that you think really made the difference?
Three major things, and I say this all the time, but I needed some sort of discipline in my life. So it was my job to make the coffee, right? I don't drink, first and foremost, I don't drink coffee. So I don't know what it's supposed to taste like. But I will tell you this, you will know if you make a bad cup of coffee. Somebody will tell you that your coffee is shit. So it was my job to go there every week and make coffee. And it was like a little bit of responsibility that I needed. And they taught me, I got to identify with what hope was and how hope worked and how to see what life could be like without drugs in my life. So now I'm witnessing all these older gentlemen in my life that have homes, careers, their family in their lives, and everything was very manageable. Life happens, life shows up, so shit's gonna happen. But these guys were dealing with shit without getting hot, you know, and they taught me that, we're going to love you until you learn how to love yourself. I had no idea what that meant until years later.
Besides that group and the people you met there, what are some other things that kind of got you through that early time?
God, listen. You know, music, God, music, you, the kids, my family. There's a bunch of stuff. Like I tell people all the time, when your life is so bad, you just need a little win to boost your confidence, just to let you know that everything is going to be all right.
When did you start sleeping through the night? How long did that take?
Oh God, I still don't. I still don't. Like, yeah, like I get 4 hours of sleep. I wake up because of my baby bladder, and then then I might get a couple more. I know I used to keep you up all the time, tossing and turning and sighing real loud and being all huffy and puffy, as you like to call it. Real fast, I want to address this. Mom, it wasn't, she said, I'm sorry I wasn't there in that part of your life. Listen, Mom, there's a certain thing addicts do that it's an
I thought you froze.
No, I'm just trying to word this correctly. To like, addicts isolate. I didn't want anybody around me. I wanted to die. You know what I mean? So I like, I'm already in the midst of taking hostages for all these people that love me so much and care for me so deeply, that I know what's going to happen when I go, but I still wanted to go anyway. So Mom, that had nothing to do with you. She said, and when you told me on Dave's porch in Alpha to never change my opinion about you because it's unconditional love from your mom. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Yo, shout outs to Ralph, man. I miss his old crazy ass.
All right. What was your first year clean anniversary like for you?
Fried chicken. What you mean?
Where-
It was
Where's
a
Cousin Steve?
it was a celebration. This was before Cousin Steve, my first year. Yeah.
Oh, we got Flynn's, right?
No, remember Frank had bought buckets of KFC chicken.
Oh, KFC.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. But everybody was getting cakes. I was like, I would love some fried chicken, right? And they had surprised me with a big ass cake and fried chicken. It was a celebration. It was amazing. It was amazing. I had all these people standing up and clapping and congratulating, and that was at 1 year. That was the one that I needed.
How long until you got into like mentoring, sponsoring other people that were new to recovery? How long into your recovery was that?
I think like 3 years in, I believe. Yeah, maybe like 2.5, 3 years in. Yeah.
What is it like after 2 or 3 years of recovery to see somebody at day one?
It it keeps it real green for you, if that makes sense. Can you give me 1 second? I have somebody knocking on the door.
Oh, we love you too, Colleen.
So Jackie will tell you that every time I'm anywhere, my dog follows me around, and if he wants to get in where I'm at, he knocks on the door
He just knocks
politely.
politely.
He's a gentleman. So I'm sorry, what was the question? Oh,
We're talking about.
what it
Go
was
ahead.
like seeing people coming in,
Yeah.
day one. It keeps it real green, and like it's hope because I see the fight in their eyes, if that makes sense. So like that instilled a bunch of hope in me to see like somebody newer than myself that wanted it as bad as that I did. You know, and it was I don't ever want to go back there. I don't ever want to go back to that first 10 days ever again.
What kind of advice do you give somebody new that you're helping out? What's some of the standard stuff that you tell them right fresh into recovery?
Pick up the phone all the time, no matter what it is, no matter what decision you have to make, no matter what obstacle you're faced with. Call somebody. There's somebody out there that loves you and that cares for you, that needs you. You know, stay out of relationships. Like, really take time to tune into you and learn you all over again, and figure out what's best for you. You know, like I was fortunate. Like, you loved me unconditionally through this whole shit. You know what I mean? And like that really wasn't. I mean, it was an issue, but like it wasn't like we were two addicts trying to get clean together in love. That usually doesn't work.
You started the job recovery specialist. Are you allowed to tell us like what exactly that job was?
Okay, so I was working for Family Guidance as a recovery specialist, and basically what would happen is we were on call. We worked in the hospital, so if somebody would overdose, they would get treated by the head doctor, the nurses, and then the whoever was there at the time would call us in, and we would try to go and facilitate, whether it be a detox, a rehab, a short-term facility, or a long care facility. Yeah.
How was your success rate?
Not good. not good. I mean, there's always a couple winners, but at the end of the day, if you're not ready to quit, you're not gonna quit. And I don't care how close to death you are, or how many times they had to administer Narcan and bring you back to life. Like, sometimes you're just not ready to stop.
So this part fascinates me between the sponsorship and the job because some of us have watched addiction from the outside, but now you've gone through it and you know it, and now you're watching it and you're in recovery. So, I mean, what does that look like to you? Like, do you relate, or do you now relate with the outside looking in? What goes
I
through
don't
your head when you're
I
involved
don't
in these
think I
things?
could ever relate from the, with the outside looking in. I take me with me wherever I go, and me is always going to be a recovering addict that has to work on himself every day. So whether it's working on myself on day one or working on myself 11 years and some change later, like, seeing them people in the hospital beds or seeing the first day person trying to get clean, it's always very eye opening, like, and identifiable.
Do you see
So,
yourself in them?
yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of times that kept it very that kept it so close to my home, to me, where, like, like, I knew I was never able to get too comfortable or too complacent in my own recovery because of that.
So that leads me to this. Now you said 11 years and some change. Can you tell me your exact clean time? I didn't know this was going to be a thinker.
11 years, 5 months, and 6 or 7 days.
How? What do you credit all that time to? Is it just always working in that field, always staying aware of addiction? I mean,
without without breaking any traditions or anything like that, like, you have to work on yourself every day. Like, I tell people all the time, they're like, "Hey, TJ, how you doing today?" I'm like, "I woke up. Everything else is a bonus." Because I remember fighting for my life. Like, and now, like, me more than anybody else in my entire life. You know how much of a competitor I am. I don't care if it's just me and you cooking. I want to be the best cook. You know what I mean? Like,
good luck.
right. Yeah. Um, but it turned into a competition with me. It was God versus the devil. I'm on the side of God, and I don't want to lose. So now I'm gonna fight this every day and compete with this every day and learn myself every day. Even now, 11 years and some change later, like, I still learn new shit about myself every day. Some stuff I really like and I really love, and some stuff I hate. You know,
I'm just gonna throw some of these up here.
just for today.
And before we move on to the last thing I want to touch on, is there anything that you want to say to somebody that thinks that they never even thought about being in recovery, that doesn't even know if it's possible for them?
At the end of the road, when you're sick and tired of just being sick and tired, I don't know if that makes sense. Um, you have nothing else to lose and everything to gain. You know, it can't be any worse than the latter. So why not try something better? When all of your options failed, when your best last ditch attempts to work on yourself led you to getting high again, there's always something different that can change your life. And for me, it was recovery.
All right, something a little lighter before we go. It's
Love
not
you,
going to be
brother.
my playlist. I'm in charge of the show. There's no.
See, you see, why I can't have nice things, because I break them.
So now your new challenge in this phase of your life, in this decade, you're on a fitness journey.
Yes.
I want to know what made you start that.
I was working out and yeah. No facts, man. Listen. And listen, let's be real clear. It's not because I'm some sort of submissive male to my wife. That's not how this is. This is a partnership that I just know I do much better following her lead. So I was working
Never
out and
submissively.
never, no, kicking
There's
and
always a
screaming.
healthy debate.
That's a good way to. So I was like doing like some bullshit workout in the garage in August, and I was done, and like my chest was fucking killing me. I'm like, there's something, but I'm not gonna run in and be like, honey, I think I'm having a heart attack. Bending over to tie my shoes was difficult. I was getting out of breath walking to the car, like just I still had a very and still, if you leave me to my own devices and there's not people checking up on me every day, if you leave me to my own devices, there's still an unhealthy relationship with food. You know, if I was happy, I was eating. If I was sad, I was eating. If you know what I mean, anything in between. If it's a celebration, we're eating. You know what I mean? Like
So how much is fitness like recovery for you?
everything is exactly like I'll tell you like this. If you chase something as bad as you chased your drug of choice, you're gonna be successful. So it's just so happened that I chased recovery. And now I'm chasing my goals in this weight loss journey.
And how are you doing that? What's your
I
strategy?
I got a fucking he's like this little pit bull of a personal trainer that just doesn't let me fail. And I have my son is like this physical specimen that works out every day, plays ball every day, watches what he eats. He's very in shape. You know, when you have other eyes on you, it tends to keep your eyes open. You know, I try to like I eat God so much smaller portions than what I used to eat. Like I remember like us going to the buffet and just that would be a competition too. Let's see who can eat more. You know what I mean? Like you know, super small portions, a lot of exercise that I don't like. I hate every last little bit of it, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like I can bend over and tie my shoes without getting out of breath.
That's a plus. Do you think that mental illness and self-care are like something that go together? When you have poor mental illness, you're gonna have poor self-care.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
like the mind, body, spirit, all of
Um,
it.
you know, when I was in my active addiction, I didn't care about how I looked. I didn't care about how I felt. I didn't care to take a shower, if we're being honest, you know? And so now, not that I think I look great or anything like that, but I'm showering twice a day, once or twice a day. Like I'm very conscious of my teeth, which is like for most addicts, we just don't like teeth are the first thing to go out the window. You know what I mean? Like I've been to the dentist more time in the last 3 years than ever in my life. Like, yes, they definitely go hand in hand.
Thank you, Alan, for the football updates or the commercial updates. And I'll ask you the same thing I asked you about recovery is if somebody's getting into fitness for the first time, if somebody's, I mean, up in the years a little bit and they're a little intimidated by the whole idea of it, what advice would you give them?
Wait a second. So what are you saying?
I've been hitting at it. Okay, you're 40. Let's just say it. It's a weird time to take up fitness. Oh, we love you, Alan. But go. So somebody, our age, older, getting
Just,
into it for the first time, and they're just like, oh, I don't know.
just
What would you
get
say?
there. Just get there on your worst days, and you don't want to go to the gym. Just fucking go, because I guarantee you're gonna feel better when you're done. Like we had this, we have like 2 inches of snow this week, and I blame the 2 inches of snow on me not going to the gym. And my
We had
my
2 inches
switch
of snow today. We had like good 2.5 feet this week.
right.
See
And
that?
I'll make excuses like why I couldn't get to the gym, but in all actuality, I couldn't get to the gym. So like I turned shoveling into a workout, which kind of fucked me up because now my back hurts.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Side note, Jacki is a beast with a shovel. Pause.
You got it. Anyway. Angelique, I'll go to the gym with you. So I'm laughing at this here. That your 40 comment hit me hard. I know we're all hitting that age right now, Shannon. Yikes.
Yikes.
All right, so we're coming up on an hour. Hold on. I'm
real fast while we have a break in the show. For all your CBD needs, go to Mom and Pop CBD Shop at 312 Town Center Boulevard, Forks Township. For all your vape needs, go to 822 Nazareth Pike, Lehigh Vape. Tell them TJ sent you. She's back.
Your son's making smoothies.
Oh,
So I had to mute it.
Oh, okay.
So, Angelique, we're going to the gym. Gym buddies. See that? You already inspired 2 people. I cannot rescue him from a snowbank if I am laughing until I fall down. I'm no good to rescue somebody if I am laying on the ground laughing, and you would be too. That shit was hilarious. It's on TJ's page. If you haven't seen it, he's tagged in it. Okay. I don't have anything else to ask you. Do you have anything for me before we go?
I do.
No.
What is it like living with somebody, being with somebody, and watching them in their act of addiction on no matter what level it looks like or how bad it is?
Oh my God. That's a really big question. What's it like? I mean, it's like sometimes it's like hitting your head against the wall. You know what I mean? You're just hurting yourself for no reason. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. Sometimes it's infuriating because you can't understand why they would keep doing that to you. Whether it's lying, stealing, risking their life, whatever, sometimes it hurts your feelings. It's a whole lot of things. I mean, watching recovery is amazing. Soul crushing. Yes. To put it simply, yes, soul crushing. But it's not like I don't want to give somebody that's using the impression that it's not something like their family's going to hate them forever. Their loved ones are mad at them. It's not like that. It's like, I would easily give up all those hard feelings if I could. Like if it ended tomorrow, I'd forget about it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that you're, whoever you are, like your moms and your friends that you've, pushed away and all that kind of stuff, that they would, if they really saw you in recovery, they'd forget all that shit. It's not, and I know like guilt and shame is a cycle. So the more you piss somebody off and the more you upset them, the more you beat yourself up over it, the more you're going to use. And it's not really necessary. It's a horrible thing to be on the outside watching, but to watch a recovery, it makes all that go away. You know what I mean? So if there's anybody that's thinking about it, that's trying to do it, just know that's making somebody really happy somewhere. So, keep it up. And that's about all I got for that.
2 more questions.
Oh, that's not a thing. All right. All right.
What's it like today?
I don't know. Sometimes I like forget that was even a part of our life. I love all the guys that you've sponsored. I love, and I see a lot of you in a lot of them too. And I
Right.
love watching it over and over again. You know what I mean? I just think that like people that have been through something and come back from it are just a different kind of people, the kind of people you want to be around. It's character building, I can say, after all this time. So you have an interesting character. All right, give me my last question before I die here.
It's not even a question, and my show is to give people their flowers, and you've stuck by me for over 16 years, and you've supported me every step of the way. You were my rock, and and God's divine intervention had put each other in our paths for this. I have a great life, and I have a fabulous family. I have a wonderful wife. Thank you, and I love you.
I
I
love
do
you
have
too.
one. I have one last question. I'm gonna give you 2 different sets of names, and you have to
Okay.
pick one.
You probably already know the answers.
I do, but to further establish why I married Jacki, we will
Oh,
go
jeez.
here. Biggie or Pac,
Biggie.
Jay-Z or Nas,
Nas.
and that's why I love you.
Well, y'all, it's been Spittin' with Spitter.
Listen, real fast before we go, I've had the addiction hotline up at the bottom of the screen if anybody needs help, and there's a ton of resources out there. Everybody's got a smartphone. If you Google it, you'll find the answers that you're looking for. If you need help, and I encourage, this is going to sound weird, but men stick with men, women stick with women. If you're a woman struggling, reach out to a woman that you see something greater in and ask her for help. And if you're a man and you are struggling, reach out to somebody that you know that could provide help. There's always somebody out there that has a better way than you think you do. Angelique, we love you guys too.
Look, it's my girl.
Anything else, man? So with that, this has been a bonus clip of Spittin' with Spitter. She's Mrs. Spitter. I'm Mr. Spitter. That sounds fucking terrible. I hope y'all have a blessed evening on this Sunday, and go Chiefs. No, not go Chiefs. Or is it go Eagles, Jack? Or is that a
What
whole
year is
different
it?
show? See you guys soon. We're tuning out. Thank y'all. Have a good night.